Yo, what's good, Raider Nation? This is your home for the weekly preview show for the Las Vegas Raiders. And we're so excited to have you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Tuesday with us. We've got a bunch of people pulling up, man. So if you have not yet, smash that like button. Let everybody know where you're at tonight on your social medias. It is Pharaoh NFL and Raider Ray live to preview the New England Patriots versus the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's get to the comments. First, we got Pablo. He says, "What's up, y'all? Greetings from the 808 West Side, Kauai, Hawaii." Man, thank you for tuning in, man. It's so cool to get love from all over the world. Raider Nation runs deep. Silver and black is absolutely everywhere, and we appreciate you for tuning in. Sean Johnson says, "Salute Raider Ray and Pharaoh. Let's get it, Raider Nation." And that's right, man. We got potentially 4 games, maybe more. We'll see how the Raider season goes. But let's enjoy these last 4 games. Let's keep things positive. Let's be excited. Let's bring that same energy week in and week out. Van City says, "Yo, yo, yo, everyone's favorite Canadian is in the building. What's good, my guys, Ray and Pharaoh? What's going on, Van City? I hope everything's going well with you and the family." Daniel Kim is in the building. He says, "Yo, yo, been looking forward to this. Been homesick with the flu and currently catching this while I'm in urgent care." Man, I'm praying for you, Daniel Kim. I hope that everything's going okay. And I hope you get well soon, man. Van City says, "Prayers up, brother. Get well soon, King." Van City. D Menace says, "Salute Van City. Salute Daniel." Man, everybody's just chopping it up. Let's see here. Who else is in the building? There's new comments. EJ Raider says, "What's up, Raider Ray? What's up, Pharaoh?" Raider Way is in the building. Everybody go subscribe to Raider Way. Man, we got a similar name. It kind of tongue ties me a little bit there. But yeah, everybody go tune into Raider Way. Maybe we can link up and talk sometime soon, man, if you'd be open to it. Keep working, man. Keep grinding. We see what you're doing, and congratulations, man. But without further ado, man, we got a lot to talk about. We got contract situations, player acquisitions that the Raiders have had, and I don't want to waste any more time. I want to introduce my co-host. You guys all know who he is, Pharaoh NFL.
What's going on, Ray?
No, I'm messing with you, bro. No, it was good, man. Salute to the chat. Salute to the nation, man. I appreciate everybody pulling up. I see y'all, man. We're excited to talk football at the end of the day, man. It's 4 games left. We know what's going on with this season, but hey, man, at the end of the day, we want to watch. Everybody's gonna watch the game on Sunday, anyways. Like, let's not act like we're not gonna watch the games. There might be some people who might skip the game, but for the most part, we're going to be watching the game on Sunday, Thursday, Monday night, Sunday night, whenever the game is going to be on. And this week, it's going to be an interesting matchup against the Patriots, man. And hopefully we get a W because I hate the Patriots.
Right. And you guys notice it by the thumbnail, student versus teacher. This is the matchup we've been talking about all offseason. Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels. What is that matchup going to look like? Is Bill Belichick going to pull out a few things out of the tool bag? Maybe come up with some creative ideas. It wouldn't surprise me if these two coaches try to get really cute this Sunday going against each other. Hopefully Josh McDaniels doesn't get his ego too involved in this matchup and just goes out there, coaches a well-balanced collective game. And I don't think the Raiders can be that cute with the performance that they had on Thursday Night Football and in the injuries that are accumulating up front on the offensive line. The Raiders have got to come in with a very, very well-structured game plan going against the New England Patriots because, Pharaoh, I'm not going to lie, this defense is tough.
Oh, definitely, man. I have them on fantasy, so I know.
That's all the answers, right?
Yeah, that's all we need, man. Fantasy, they're one of the best fantasy defenses, man, just to let y'all know. But now, all seriousness, man, at the end of the day, man, like Bill Belichick, that's his bread and butter. He's one of the best defensive minds of all time, one of the best coaches of all time, and if not the best, if you want to look at Super Bowl rings. But that being said, like if you got a young QB, veteran QB, top QB, for some reason, like he gives a lot of quarterbacks trouble. You know what I mean? He just always has something up his sleeve. And that's pretty much one of the reasons why the Patriots were so good for so long. Obviously Tom Brady, but you mix Tom Brady with a guy like Bill Belichick, a defensive mind like him. We've seen it. They won like what, 7 rings, seven Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls or whatever. So man, it's gonna be a tough game. Bill Belichick is he's like, okay, you wanted to leave me to coach the Raiders. Okay, we'll see. You know what I mean? So he's circled this game. He might say all the right things this week, like, oh, I'm happy for Josh McDaniels and yada yada yada, all that good stuff. Same thing with McDaniels, but McDaniels was looking past the Rams last week, trying to prepare for the Patriots, And you gotta think that, hey, Bill Belichick is probably like, all right, we'll see what you got this Sunday. It's going to be a little competitive, I think, from a coaching standpoint, just because they know each other. But obviously, the players, if they got any type of, I don't want to say respect or anything like that, but they definitely want to bounce back after having a terrible, terrible loss against the Rams.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the Patriots defense, and this is a defense that is clicking right now. They're flying around to the football, they're making plays, and I really like what Bill Belichick does with the defensive side of his football. He gets a good blend of aging veteran players and tags them along with draft picks that they take time to develop, which is something that I'm looking forward to. Seeing Dave Ziegler and Champ Kelly and Josh McDaniels to see if they take a similar mold, a similar impression of the Patriots and bring it over to the defensive side of the football for the Raiders, especially in the draft and in the offseason. Get a good blend of veteran talent. But I think we have veteran talent right now at key positions on the roster. At Deron Harmon, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby's coming into his own. I think you go and build a young, youthful, talented defense throughout the draft and throw a lot of young talent and blend it with these veterans. And next year, you're talking about a potential huge increase in production on the defensive side of the football. But let's get into the Patriots defense a little bit, because there's two players that we really need to circle on the map and we got to look out for: Josh Uke and Matt Judon. Now, Josh Uke has 10 sacks and 1 forced fumble, and he actually leads the NFL in multiple 3-sack games. So he has 2 3-sack games. This is a 24-year-old young talented player coming out of Michigan who's really finding his own, and paired next to Matt Judon, who has 14 and a half sacks and 1 forced fumble. This is a dynamic duo similar to what the Raiders have going on defensively, but you can make the argument that the New England Patriots are even better. How do you feel about the bookends of the New England Patriots defense, and is that something that you're looking out for going into this matchup against the Raiders?
For sure, they definitely are gonna have to do something about those players because they've been stepping up. If you look at like the last, I think he's on Matt Judon at least. I know that he has like a streak of sacks in games, and he's playing real well for them. The thing is that who our best on lineman right now, are you probably could say Colt Miller and your guy, man, Illuminor. You know what I mean? Like Illuminor is playing some good football. Hopefully he continues that against the Patriots. It's going to be definitely a good matchup. But it's definitely definitely something to keep an eye on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, and bringing up Jermaine Illuminor, I'm glad that you kind of brought that segue up. I've got Jermaine Illuminor, and shout out to Raiders Scout for posting this on his IG. Anybody that's not following Raiders Scout, go up there and follow him on Instagram. He puts out a lot of Raiders little tidbits, little bits of information for Raider Nation to follow. And before I went live, this is somebody who I've been high on this entire offseason. Ever since the preseason, before the preseason started into training camp, I had Jermaine Illuminor circled on my list of players to watch because I just felt like he started to come into his own a little bit. And at the right tackle position, he's been a solid above average right tackle play this season. Matter of fact, since week 5, he's 17th in pass blocking and 12th in run blocking. Since that time, he's allowed an NFL low of 0 sacks and 0 quarterback hits. He does have 14 pressures, but that is also 9th in the NFL. So this is a guy who's finding a lot of production. And you may think, hey, Ray, what are you going to have to pay Jermaine Illuminor if the Raiders want to keep a veteran right tackle in this offense? And honestly, it's not that much, Farrell. 3 years, $16.8 million for an above average right tackle who I believe is starting to come into his own and starting to find out his true position at the right tackle spot. And not only that, but if something were to happen, Farrell, he can swing inside and play guard, go back out, play both left and right tackle. These guys are just really hard to come by in the National Football League. And at $5.6 million a year, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, you already know my thoughts about keeping your own. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a good it's a way to go when you want to build a good culture, you want to build a team, you want to build a good locker room, you want to sign guys that play well, that play hard, that there are good leaders in that locker room. And Illuminor, if he's that guy, like if he's playing well enough, then you might have to think about bringing him back at the right price because the Raiders do have a lot of needs. You know what I mean? You could point to a lot of different positions, like definitely some of those positions on the O-line, especially early on, like coming into the season, like we didn't know who the right tackle was going to be, especially with the revolving door between Illuminor and then you had Thayer Mumford, and now Illuminor is like settling in and he's playing some good football. So yeah, I mean if he could come back for the right price, I'm not mad at it, but breaking the bank with so much needs on the Raiders, I'm not sure. But
Me
that's
personally, if I'm being honest, $5.6 million annually, especially with how high the cap is going to go after this Amazon deal with the
not bad.
NFL,
It's not bad
that's
at
not a
all.
bad deal, especially
Yeah.
with the versatility that he brings. Me honestly, I would go and give him $5.6 million. I know the defense needs some skills added to it, right? And you're going to have to do that financially. But I think majority of what the Raiders are going to do this offseason is add talent to the defense through the draft. I see them going a very young route, a cheap
Mhm.
route, a route where they can develop guys in their own system and not worry about taking huge risk in free agency and getting themselves in contract situations that aren't appealing to the Raiders organization. So, yeah, man, for 5.6 million, is that something that you would do?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's that's a great contract,
Yeah.
especially for a starting right tackle. Yeah, definitely, I'll take it, because he's a guy and he knows your system too. He knows the system. He's a veteran. You know what I mean? You could build off that. It's already set and done, set in stone. So you can just build off that instead of just getting maybe bringing some other guy that can get hurt and you paid him so much money, or you take a risk in a draft and you draft a player because at the end of the day, draft is it's not a guarantee and there's a learning curve too. So, in my opinion, if you got a guy that's playing well and you can get him at the right price, yeah, go ahead. You know what I mean? Especially the Raiders got so many different needs. Like I said, I definitely would do it for sure.
Yeah, and the draft is a guarantee, but I prefer the draft for a reason because in free agency, it's not a guaranteed either. And the catch 22 that comes with free agency is that now you have a lot more money allocated to these guys than what you do when you take a chance on somebody in the draft. Unless it's a first round draft pick, the later you get in the draft and start developing guys like a guard or a tackle later
Mhm.
rounds, you're much less risk involved when it comes to the financial obligation to those players. So that's why me personally, if I'm going to go get a linebacker and all these key positions, unless it's a superstar defensive tackle or corner, somebody who's going to change the face of the defense.
Mhm.
Let's go address this situation in the draft. But alluding to tackles, offensive linemen, we did make a few moves this week. So we went out and we signed Willie Wright, offensive guard, and we also went from the Denver Broncos practice squad, Nathani Moody. This is a guy who's a big power gap guard. And we also signed Jordan Meredith to a practice squad, a guy I was really high on. He appeared in 4 preseason games, only allowed 1 pressure, no sacks, and 44 pass blocking attempts. He was the highest graded preseason player in 88 total snaps. So me personally, I was really high on Jordan Meredith. I was shocked to see that he didn't make the active roster. He's got some
Mhm.
developing to do. He's still a young prospect, but he offers a lot when it comes to pass protection. Who do you think is going to be the guard? Do you think Thayer Mumford will kick inside? Do you think Nathani Moody will get reps moving forward? How do you kind of view this offensive line at the guard position?
It's a tough call because we haven't seen Mumford inside. You know what I mean? We haven't seen him, and then for some reason, Illuminor hasn't gone on inside. Even though they've kind of switched a lot of guys up. The guy that I didn't like that they switched up was Parham. I actually liked him at right guard. He was playing well at right guard. He's kind of struggling on
That
that
left.
left side. You know what I mean? Even though I still believe in him, I still believe in the talent. I still think that he has a potential, but I think he's struggling with that position switch. Maybe if they can switch it up and have Parham go back to right guard and just have him just maybe to get his confidence back up. He was already playing well in that place. Maybe have him play there. But it's kind of interesting too because making those moves on the offense line tells me that Alex Barr is pretty much he's going to be gone for the
Yeah, he's done.
foreseeable. He's done. John Simpson, obviously he's gone. Lester Cotton, he's on the IR. I thought they got I don't know. Someone in chat, someone said something about him being cut or whatever, but he actually went on the IR. So a lot of these guys are depth position. So I'm kind of curious to see, what are your thoughts?
Me personally, if I'm being honest, I want to kind of look at Ohio State. Thayer Mumford played left guard. And a lot of times when you take a tackle and he's not really producing at the right tackle position, you can kick him inside, especially with his history of playing guard before. If there was a guy, I don't want to take Jermaine from the right tackle spot. I think he's found a home. I don't think you mess up that chemistry there. He's really settled down the penalties because he's gotten comfortable at the right tackle position.
Mhm.
Early on, he swung inside. They were kind of playing that game, getting Thayer Mumford reps. They would kick Illuminor inside when they were injured at the guard position. But he's found a home at the right tackle spot. If anybody, I'm going to take Thayer Mumford and potentially move him inside. But yeah, don't be surprised if Nathani Moody gets some significant reps, specifically in the run game. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do a little bit of a rotation at this guard spot until they find one of these guys. Signing all these guys on a week's notice going into a game like the Patriots, you're going to kind of have to see what you got in these guys. And I think Jordan Meredith offers really good pass protection and Moody offers really good run. So I'm kind of curious to see what route they decide to go.
Surprisingly, well, I won't say surprising, but surprisingly, the Raiders are kind of struggling in the inside too.
Right.
So either way, they needed to shake it up anyways. You know what I mean? Because right now, like we were talking about how Illuminor and Colt Miller are playing good football, but in the inside, it's kind of shaky. So we'll see what they will do this week, especially against the Patriots on short notice. They might get some of these guys some reps, but it is there. How many reps are they going to get on short notice? I mean, are they going to pull a Baker Mayfield and
you might as well?
Hey, might as well, for real. And they have more time. If you think about it, they have way more time. So we'll see.
And I think if you use these guys in a specific skill set on 10 days, they can get a grasp. Especially this blocking scheme isn't as complex as what a Tom Cable's scheme was. You can typically come in here, let these big guys get up front, get hats on guys, and it's really a numbers game. So I don't think it's going to be a crazy transition for some of these guys. I know Nathani Moody got some snaps against the Kansas City Chiefs last week, so that's good. He's been a guy who's been dealing with some injuries, so he was actually able to get in the lineup and get some snaps last week. So maybe they can carry that over into this week and consistently put some back-to-back games together. So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm intrigued with what they're going to do. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Thayer Mumford. I'm curious to see what Jordan Meredith will do. Nathani Moody, let's see what he can do. I mean, this is all just feeling out, and maybe one of these guys, if they can finish out the last 4 weeks strong, who knows, right? Who knows? You might be able to bring some of them back, but Jayon Brown's officially gone to IR. So that's kind of the moves. We've also signed Kanai Moiga. He's a linebacker. He's signed to the practice squad. So as far as transactions, that's pretty much where we're at this week. So quite a bit of moving and shaking for being week 15. But look, there's almost 30 of you guys in the building. If you guys can, let's have 30 likes on this video. Let other Raider fans know where you're at. Go subscribe to Pharaoh NFL. Subscribe to Raider Ray if this is your first time here. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the best Raiders preview show on YouTube.
Man, let them know. Let them know, man. Let them know.
Hey, we got a big week, man. We got 4 weeks left. And it's time to be positive. It's time to be excited about Raiders football. And we're going to get into the matchup. So offensively, defensively, what are you looking forward to in the Raiders Patriots game?
I'm looking for a Derek Carr to bounce back. I'm looking for the running game. Obviously, I want to see Josh Jacobs, dominate the game, because that's pretty much the recipe for success for the Raiders. Let's be honest here. Like we're over here waiting for the passing offense to explode. It's probably not going to happen this season. I think the bread and butter for the Raiders is to run the ball, and if they can dominate the run game, then everything else will come. And yeah, man, it just 1 week at a time. I'm an ultimate optimist. I'm even keeled. You know what I mean? I'm realistic, but also I'm a fan of the team at the end of the day. So you can call me biased. So I mean, we're all biased. At the end of the day, we're all Raider fans. But at the same time, if the Raiders can just string along some games, starting against the Patriots, some teams might need to lose or whatever, but we'll get there. At the end of the day, I'm just looking for this team. At the very least, I want this team to finish strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to see no 4-game losing streak to end of the season. I'm not trying to see no terrible performance. I don't want this team to get blown out. You know what I mean? Like, and then, well, at least we get a top draft pick. I don't care. You know what I mean? Because what does it matter if that's the energy that we're going to going into the draft, going into the offseason, going into next season? Does it really matter if do you have that much faith in a guy like Josh McDaniels? I want to get faith, and the way that happens is if he needs to coach up this team. Early on, I did say that he lost the locker room. It felt like he did, and then I had a change of thought after I seen how the locker room reacted after that. I don't know. It was against the Denver Broncos, and ever since then, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's more of a player issue. Maybe they just need their guys in there. And hey, McDaniels he's getting better as a coach too, as well. It's a second stint, but still, like, he still needs to improve. I think there's a lot to improve for Josh McDaniels. And yeah, man, I'm looking for the D line and just take over the game. That's what I want to see. I want to see the D line. I want to see Mac Jones cussing out Matt Patricia after he gets his 7th, 8th sack because he's throwing a screen every damn play. You know what I mean? So I'm just excited, man. I want the Raiders to win, man. I'm just looking for the Raiders to win at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm taking this as a 4-game season right now. You know, if this is the last 4 games that we get to see the Raiders play in the silver and black in the 2022 season, then I'm gonna enjoy every bit of it. You know, win, lose, or draw. This is what we're in it for. You know what I mean? We are Raider fans through and through, and we're here to support this team through the thick and thin. We've come way too far. We've come way too far and gone through so much stuff to just throw in the towel now. So what I want to see, honestly, Pharaoh, is I want to see why Josh McDaniels thought it was time to leave the New England Patriots and to take over as a head coach for another organization. And going up against a Bill Belichick, I know the season has gone the way it's gone, but on a stage like this, going against your former regime, let's show the Patriot organization, show why you took Dave Ziegler, show why Josh McDaniels is getting another opportunity as a head coach. Go out here and beat a team that you were formerly employed with and had a lot of your success. Really, he's known, his identity is through this Patriots organization. Let's kind of change that up, and let's say that this is a new start for the Raiders organization, a new start for Josh McDaniels. But you were talking about and alluding to the matchup on the defensive line, and I think that this is going to be a game won and lost in the trenches. I would say 80% of NFL games are won and lost in the trenches on any given Sunday, and
Mhm.
this game's no different. I mean, you alluded to how Mac Jones is struggling. Since his injury, Matt Patricia has gone super screen heavy. I mean, Monday night we seen 12 screen attempts. In the weeks prior, 7, 6, 7, 9, 9. I mean, this is a team that the offensive line is not holding up in protection long enough to allow Mac Jones to look downfield, to get to a Hunter Henry through the seam, to get to a Nelson Aguilar down deep, to get to a Jacoby Myers, who is their leading receiver, and he only has 593 yards and 3 scores. So to put that into comparison, Mac Hollins has 588 yards and 3 touchdowns. So
Mm.
if you're telling me their best wide receiver is comparable to a Mac Hollins, I'll take that every day of the week. Let's go man to man and let's get after this quarterback. It's going to be really hard though because they have a ton of RPOs. They do a lot of quick passes, a lot of screens, so they get the ball out quickly, and it allows these defensive ends, specifically for the Raiders, to not be able to pin their ears back quite as much and to be on the defensive alert. That's how Bill Belichick has kind of adjusted this offense to deal with the lack of pass protection with his guys up front. So yeah, look for the guys up front to get the ball out quickly, do a ton of RPOs, get their playmakers out in space, and that's how Bill Belichick's going to move the football on the Raiders.
And it sounds like based off what you're saying is that the Raiders got to play disciplined football and they got to tackle well. And
100%.
then when they get the opportunities to pass rush, aka third and long, that's where Max Crosby and company are going to eat. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, man, I didn't bring up this point and you kind of alluded to it as well. Like is Josh McDaniels. You know what I mean? This is his he's the protege, you know what I mean? He's the guy was groomed. He was a lot of the Patriots fan base thought he was going to be the next in line after, Bill Belichick, whenever he calls it quits, he was going to he was going to become the head coach for the Patriots. And then obviously, McDaniels took the Las Vegas job. But this would be a good opportunity if he could show us like, hey, if you can out coach just this coaching staff overall, including Josh McDaniels, can out coach the great Bill Belichick and company. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't understand Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator. Like, can you do you get it at any like I don't get it. Like, was
They
it
have
a
a lack
desperate?
of talent when it comes to the coaching side of the football. Like, I mean, early on in the offseason, they didn't even have an offensive coordinator. It was a kind of like an open competition, as if it was a roster spot. So this was kind of like, hey, this is who's going to earn it. They had that preseason dilemma where one guy would get the play calling duties, other guy would get the play call duties, and that kind
Mhm.
of trickled into the season until they actually were like, hey, look, we're just going to ride it out with Matt Patricia. But it's been underwhelming, if I'm being honest, Pharaoh. Like, it's extremely short pass heavy, RPO. Was it?
No, I was gonna say like just looking back at the offseason and just looking at like how many coaches left that that coaching staff when McDaniels, because if you look back, McDaniels kind of was grabbing like he brought Mick Lombardi with him, he brought that O line coach with him, I believe.
Yep.
So he brought some coaches with him, and for a guy like Bill Belichick, he probably didn't have enough time or enough resources to look for look for a guy that he would feel like would fit in and coach under him. And I don't know, maybe it was that type of situation where he was like, all right, let me just get guys that I know and that
Yeah.
and sometimes just getting guys that it's just not this doesn't mean it's gonna work. But Matt Patricia, I mean, I didn't see that coming out. Defensive coordinator being an offensive coordinator. I mean, I guess I mean they probably know way more football than us, but they get paid to do that. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't make any sense from the outside looking in.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm curious to see how Josh McDaniels influences Patrick Graham and his defensive design going against a Mac Jones. Josh McDaniels is known for building up Mac Jones, getting him his best success, knows his weaknesses, knows his tendencies, knows what he's comfortable with, what he's not comfortable with, his footwork, his timing in the pocket, what his ideal situation is for Mac Jones, and how is Josh McDaniels going to help Patrick Graham prepare for that, especially with how quick they're getting the football out. I'm really curious to see that, but I'm also curious to see how Josh McDaniels can respond to the adjustments that Bill Belichick is going to do. Bill Belichick knows Josh McDaniels better than absolutely anybody. So this is going to be a game where, yes, Josh McDaniels is going to have to dial up some creative concepts, but at the same time, it's got to be into a rhythm where this offense can pick it up and actually consistently execute it effectively.
Mhm.
Like you can't go into this too cute against Bill Belichick, because if you do, you put yourselves in third and long situations. You start turning the football over. That just spells disaster for the Raiders, especially going against a defense that's tied with the Cardinals for the most defensive touchdowns in 5. So the Patriots have come away with 5 defensive touchdowns this year. They're number 1 in points scored off of turnovers. They have 85 points based off of turnovers. So Derek Carr cannot turn over the football in this game. And you honestly have to go back to a basic, run heavy, and you're probably getting a shot in the arm this week. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, we haven't really talked about that yet. And also this Patriots defense, 45 sacks. They're third in the NFL behind the Eagles and the Cowboys. So this is a team that knows how to get after the quarterback. We've seen DC struggle when pressure is in his face. We have an offensive line that's going through a lot of injuries. You got to be able to run the football effectively this game. Get the ball out quickly.
You mentioned Derek Carr and how he needs to not turn the ball over. I mean, look at the last game; he threw two interceptions. The Chargers, I know we won against we beat the Raiders, beat the Chargers, but he threw a pick that game against the Seahawks. I know we won that game, but he threw 2 picks. So that's a total of like what 5 picks in 3 games, and that's not going to lead to wins. I know they were on a 3-game winning streak. But, eventually that's gonna catch up to you, and it did against the Rams, literally in the red zone, And when you look back at the replay, it was just like, "Oh my god." It was just one of those, like, man, like,
In,
it's such an unlucky play.
yeah, in my opinion, I think Josh McDaniels has to switch up his play calling for Derek Carr specifically in the red zone. I just don't think Derek Carr's red zone abilities are that great. And I
Mm.
think you almost have to come up with designed scripted routes now moving forward in the red zone to get some type of efficiency from Derek Carr. I don't know what it is about his game that he's regressed significantly. I mean, when you're ranked among the David Mills of the world, when it comes to red zone percentage, Derek Carr is a lot better than that. And there's got to be something that improves in that situation. And I think Josh McDaniels, we go back to this whole tug of war game that we've been playing all season. Is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it play calling? Is it execution of the calls being or by the plays that are being called? If that is the situation, we've got to start scheming Derek Carr into situations that favor him and put his strengths in position, because it's clearly an issue for Derek Carr.
What is it? Do you think, just in the red zone, it's a little more tighter? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like the throws
Mm-hmm.
and his ability not to use his legs. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It probably hurts him in the red zone because the defenses nowadays, they're super fast, athletic. These guys close fast. Those windows close fast, and the NFL, football is a game of inches. So at the end of the day, like a guy like Derek Carr, like if he's not, he's not making that throw, it just takes. But I don't want to put it all on Derek Carr because how many times have we seen players drop the ball in the red zone as well? Like, you know what I mean?
No, that is true. I would say though, for the most part, Pharaoh,
Yeah.
it's his feet and it's his progression issues. When it
Mhm.
comes down to the red zone, it's like those two things from his game. It's like a Madden adjuster just drops it down to a 60. His
Yeah.
footwork, he doesn't go through his progressions. He locks down onto one wide receiver, doesn't go through his reads. And that's where these lulls in this offense start to pop up. So yeah, I do think some of it used to be play calling, but when you go regime after regime and you have consistent issues, we kind of have to stop taking a look at the play caller and look at the players who are trying to execute the plays, because now it's starting to be evident that it's Derek Carr that's having these struggles and not necessarily these play callers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this year's just been a weird year for Derek Carr. If you just look at like his numbers, like, oh, he's throwing 20 touchdowns, which is top 10 in the league, 11 picks, which is kind of on the high side, but it's a 2-to-1, touchdown ratio. But then you start looking at his accuracy. It's like one of the worst in his career, like since his rookie year. I'm not his rookie year, but his second year in the league, damn near. But just watching the games, it's just he just doesn't seem. It's not there. And I hope he finished the season strong. But if he doesn't finish it strong and he doesn't play well, then you can start thinking like maybe those Tom Brady rumors might be. There might be some.
To be honest,
I don't. Hey, I don't want Tom. I just want to say this. I do not want Tom Brady to come to the Raiders. Please do. Like the demand is closer to 50 than he is 40. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's 45, 46 years old. And we've seen it with every great QB. It just out of nowhere, it's a huge drop off with Peyton Manning, the Brett Favres, you name it. It's just they're just not the same QB. And I think Tom Brady, he does a good job with taking care of his body. I mean, as far as like it's all well documented. Like there's a reason why he's playing. It's unprecedented waters. I mean, he's playing. He's had a long career, great career. But I just don't want him to come to the Raiders and stink it up, man. That's just gonna be oh my god, like please. I rather the Raiders just draft a QB. Just go ahead and just draft a young QB and like and just keep Derek Carr and develop that QB, and then when that he's ready to go, boom. You know what I mean? You have that in your back pocket.
Yeah, and it kind of if that move were to happen, it just kind of feels like a slap to the face to the Raiders organization. If I'm being honest, to see Brady suited up in the silver and black, to see Josh McDaniels as the head coach, then it really starts to feel like the enemy crept in. That's what it starts to kind of feel like. And me, I'm not for that. I don't necessarily think that Brady is an upgrade over Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr has the ability to stretch the field. He's got a nice arm. At times, he shows extreme elite traits of accuracy. Him and Devontae Adams are obviously developing more rapport, more chemistry. For me personally, though, Derek Carr's flaws are pretty evident. Now, he's not a perfect quarterback, but if you move on, don't necessarily expect playoffs if you're plugging in a rookie quarterback into the system. So if you're going to move on from Derek Carr, there's got to be a well-established plan in place. And I don't think Tom Brady is the answer to that, even though I really could see it happening, as much as I hate to say it.
I was gonna say this. The best case scenario, obviously, the best case scenario is Derek Carr just light
Ball.
switch. He, everything comes together. He obviously and Derek Carr is the type of QB like the more and any QB is the more they get comfortable in the offense, the better they're going to be. And especially Derek Carr, where he feasts with pre-snap reads and reading defense, knowing where to go with the ball. That's him all the way. But another scenario too is, what the Chiefs did down there when Andy Reid came there with Alex Smith, and then they drafted a Patrick Mahomes, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If the Raiders can pull something like that off with Derek Carr on the roster, I like that. I like that, and I think it's possible.
It is, yeah, it's 100% possible. I think if the coin was flipped on Derek Carr or Tom Brady, I'm probably going to lean in Derek Carr. I just think he gives you a little bit more upside. Obviously, Tom Brady's on the tail end of his career, obviously. but it's going to be an intriguing offseason. There's a lot of. I heard Pat McAfee talking about Andrew Luck, right? And I want to get your opinion on this, Pharaoh, because it was kind of interesting. And he said, I had no issues with Andrew Luck with my time with the Indianapolis Colts. However, at times I would question his ability to lead because he was always trying to please people.
Mm.
And who does that sound like to you? And that's coming from somebody who loves DC. Like I love DC as a man, who he is on and off the field. I respect his loyalty to the Raiders organization. And everything that he's done for the Raiders. But Pat McAfee brought up something pretty intriguing that I see some characteristics of Derek Carr. And he was talking about, he was always trying to please the coaches. And anytime the GM or the coach would say something, Andrew Luck would allude to them and say, hey, you're the GM, you know better than me. I just want to do it your way. And he said, at times, you got to kind of be a jerk. You got to kind of know how to get on the sidelines and hold players accountable and say, hey, we're going with this wide receiver. We're going with this play call. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And that's what these really good quarterbacks in the National Football League have traits of, is the ability to look at their head coach and say, no, this guy's going to play. We're going to run this, and this is what I like to do. I thought it was kind of intriguing because it kind of reminded me a lot of Derek Carr's situation.
Mm. And that's just Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to change.
No, it's not.
It's not going to change. That's just his personality. He's just, he's just a nice guy, at the end of the day, man. But look, like I said, I laid it out. I think the best thing the Raiders can do is I think they should keep Carr and just draft a QB.
Yeah.
Develop him. And if Carr takes a huge jump in the second year, you have a young QB that you're developing, and if Carr just keeps excelling and he becomes the great QB, then you have Carr and you keep Carr. And then you have a massive trade bait and a quarterback that you developed, that you drafted in the second, third, fourth round, whatever. You know what I mean? But if Carr takes a little dip, hey, you know what I mean? And at that point, as you're developing the team and you're adding more pieces, a young QB can come in and play a little bit. He could play well. You know what I mean? You can. And a guy like McDaniels, he'll know how to, handle a young QB because he's done it before.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it. And look, who's to say that if Carr does take a little dip and that young quarterback is showing some slight promise and is able to pull out a few wins here and there, Derek Carr might be also a trade candidate, and maybe you can get yourself into the first round and have multiple first round picks to really move and shake. So I think that is kind of interesting to kind of allude to. This is Patriots defense. I kind of want to talk about them and kind of piggyback off of them. Speaking of Derek Carr, because I think that there's going to be a lot of coverages that I want to bring up for Raider Nation for them to really look forward to. But before we do, there's 38 of you guys, almost 40 in the building, man. We should have 40 likes. So go subscribe to Pharaoh NFL. You're tuned in to the best Raiders preview show on YouTube, and all the love and support is well appreciated. So everybody, let's talk about this defense and a few matchups that the Raiders are going to be seeing. The Patriots run a defensive concept called the cover one double. This is a bracket. This is a corner and a single high safety bracketed on the best wide receivers. We see this as an example of against Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson. And while they ran this bracket concept, the New England Patriots lack a true number one shutdown corner. That's something that they've been struggling with. So even in bracket coverage, with the issue that they've been having, those two wide receivers, Diggs and Jefferson, put up 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they were still able to find production, but at the same time, this bracket coverage opens things up for all the other wide receivers. So this defense, because it doesn't have the depth that, these really high-end secondaries have, they're running these bracket coverages, and they're running the cover one double to take away the number one. But when you have two receiving options, they're running a cover 7 concept, which is a double safety concept, and they're running 2 brackets on the outside. So they're taking away the outside threats. Again, one-on-one matchups. The Patriots are kind of limited with what they're able to do when it comes to the secondary, when it comes to covering guys. So they've been having issues when it comes to that. Their pass rush is what helps the secondary. But when it comes to brackets, we're getting a shot in the arm this week, Pharaoh. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller.
Yep.
So what a week to be able to attack a defense like this that's using these bracket coverages to get a guy like Darren Waller back involved in the game, to get a one-on-one matchup for Hunter Renfrow. So don't be surprised if the Raiders do have a little bit of a run heavy or a pass heavy concept this week, because I think their pass can really help set up the run. And then in the second half, really watch Josh Jacobs, especially if the Raiders can get a small lead. Watch Josh Jacobs slowly start to take over this game on the ground.
I know you mentioned those guys, and I understand what you're saying too. And but I best believe there's going to be a little bit of rust. You know, these guys haven't played in a while. Even when they did play, it wasn't all the way there, because they're still trying to figure out the offense, where to be, where to go, where to be where Carr wants it. You know what I mean? In this offense, so they still was trying to figure it out when they were on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's been a long hiatus. They've been on the injury reserve. They've been hurt. They've been on the sidelines. Finally coming back. And I said this like a few weeks ago, when the Raiders were on their win streak. When they come back, there's not going to be a lot of pressure for them to really do what they need to do. I think the Raiders need to lean on that running game at the end of the day. That's where it's going to start. And then you can incorporate some of those concepts where you can get Darren Waller going. You can get a guy like, but I think it's Josh Jacobs. It's still Josh Jacobs. It's still Adams. But obviously, Bill Belichick, he's going to have some up his sleeve for Devontae Adams and the run game too as well. And I think the Rams did a pretty solid job on Jacobs, even though he had 99 yards. He had 99 yards, but he wasn't as efficient. It was not a high efficient game for Josh Jacobs. Like literally, Josh Jacobs averages like at least 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
In that game, it was like his second fewest yards per carry all season. It was like about 3.7 against the Rams, and which was frustrating, because that was the strength of the Rams. I mean, it's almost like they overlooked the Rams. They didn't really do a lot of game planning. They didn't look at like what that defense, and I don't want to dwell on the past, because that's the past. At the end of the day, the Rams won, but best believe I think the Raiders are going to be prepared this week for sure.
Yeah, and I think especially with this cover one double, it's you talked about Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, and I think you're going to see a lot of heavy boxes in bracket coverage on Devontae Adams. And it's really going to force Derek Carr. And this is what I could see Bill Belichick wanting to do going against a Derek Carr, is make Derek go to those options. Does that make sense? Go away from Devontae, go away from Josh, and force the ball to go to a guy like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, a guy that he hasn't got a lot of reps with, a guy that there is going to be obvious rust. So we have to expect this in the game plan of Bill Belichick, to give Derek Carr those looks, at least give him the looks to go to a guy like Darren Waller, to go to a guy like Hunter Renfrow on some of those more complex routes, something that they probably don't have a high percentage of landing. So if those guys do come back and they do get significant reps, I'm not saying it's the formula to win, but I think it's the formula that Bill Belichick is going to present to Derek Carr.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's going to test it out. He's like, because Bill Belichick, man, he's tried and true, man. Like he knows, he's proven. He's gonna look at what you do, and he's gonna take away what you're good at, and he's gonna make you do things that make you uncomfortable. Especially Derek Carr. He's gonna know, like, all right, Derek Carr loves to throw it to Devontae Adams, and it's kind of obvious, like the last few weeks, if you just notice, like the ball when the Raiders are moving the ball is because of Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams, and then everybody else is just, oh, Matt Collins, oh, he makes the catch, but like it's not something that we can count on. So he's definitely going to be trying to. He's definitely going to give Matt Collins opportunities. This is a game where Matt Collins he has to make those catches. This is a game where Moreau has to make those catches. And when I say make those catches, I'm talking about wide open. You need to make those. There can't be any drops, because there's going to be opportunities. Darren Waller as well. He needs to. Hopefully he's been working on his hands while he's been out. You know what I mean? He's been working on the jug machine, because he's been struggling the last couple seasons with catching the ball. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we'll be able to see Darren Waller back to his old self against the Patriots, but we'll see, man. Because you can never. Anytime any team plays against the Patriots, like it's just one of those. It's the Patriots always got to answer, man. They're just one step ahead of everybody. Right now they're just going through. I know everybody's like, oh, well, the Patriots, they're not winning that much games. Matt Patricia's their offensive coordinator, but Matt, they're just missing a quarterback. Get him a quarterback. Mac Jones, he's all right. But they just they're right now they're just going through a time. I don't know if Bill Belichick I don't know how long Bill Belichick is going to coach, but if he continues to coach and if he can get some type of quarterback, some type of offensive coordinator, you know what I mean? Boom, the Patriots are back just like that. But it's easier said than done, man.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of those games where, you alluded to Mac Hollins getting involved, but thankfully, if Bill Belichick does try to limit Devontae, try to limit Josh Jacobs, thankfully, this is a week where you at least have some of those guys coming back, and you're not solely relying on Mac Hollins to go out there and win one-on-ones all game. You have a guy inside on the slot, Hunter Renfrow. Hopefully, he can come back fresh, rejuvenized. And you know what? Darren Waller was getting reps with Derek Carr over the last few weeks. Like, make no mistake about it. These guys have been working out together. I think Darren Waller is involved with the offense. We've seen there for a while. He was mic'd up with the earpiece before his return. So he was obviously actively involved, getting those mental reps. Now it's just transitioning it onto the football field. And can he do that in a big time moment where I actually think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Darren Waller? This might be a game where he doesn't have time to shake off rust. The Raiders have to win 4 games. So there is no timetable to give him a few weeks to kind of shake things off. He's going to have to come in here and produce.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hey, look, I'm rooting for Darren Waller. I'm rooting for Hunter Renfrow. I'm rooting for everybody that plays for the Raiders. I'm not rooting against him. I'm sure most Raider Nation feels the same way. I mean, there's some people. It sounds like they rooting against him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I'm rooting for everybody that plays for the Raiders because rooting for a guy that plays for the Raiders means the Raiders are going to be winning. You know what I mean? And that's what it really that's what really matters at the end of the day. So, but we'll see what happens, man, on Sunday, man. It's gonna be interesting because McDaniels, he fumbled a bag last week against the Rams. Like he thought it was going to be a easy win against the Rams. I understand why he would overlook the Rams, but at the end of the day, like it cost us a game. It makes it that much tougher to make a run at the playoffs. But that being said, there's a chance. You know what I mean? There's a chance. They got to take it 1 week at a time, and they got to take care of business this week against the Patriots. But it's going to be a tough game. But I'm sure McDaniels is going to have like the best game plan of because he wants to be Bill Belichick. He wants to prove that, hey man, like I am that dude. You know what I mean? But we'll see.
All right. So before we get into the comments section, man, Pharaoh NFL has a huge announcement to do for his channel on a 2,000 subscriber giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
I will let Pharaoh NFL have the floor and he can do his thing.
Yeah. So I wasn't playing with y'all, man. I'm doing a prize giveaway. Obviously I got everybody's names that signed up in this jar right here. And I'm gonna pull it out in a second, man. I just, I gotta set up the drum roll. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Hold on, let me see. Let's see.
Oh, it's got to be ready when the drums are in.
All right. I'm just gonna shake it, right, Lil? You see that, y'all? I'm not trying to cheat y'all.
No cheating.
Ain't no Spygate going on over here. All right, let me pull it out. Hold on 1 second. Damn. All right. Let's see. Who is?
Let's hope you wrote this big enough. Let's see it. It hasn't come in yet. Oh, Lord Beagle.
Lord Beagle, man. Hey, man, congratulations, man. You're gonna be a prize winner. Most likely is gonna be a gift card. I gave a gift card last time to fanatics.com, and I'm gonna do the same again. Man, but hey, congratulations, man. At the end of the day, man, we're all Raider fans, and I appreciate the support. It's been a good journey, a fun journey, and it's still growing. So I appreciate everybody. Appreciate Raider Nation, man. And we're gonna continue to do this, man. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep coming. We're gonna keep coming. But Lord Beagle, I'm gonna be sending you an email shortly probably after the show, and just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, man, just be on the lookout for an email from me, and I'll be sending you all that good details. Appreciate you.
Yep, and we do have a big plan for the show, so you guys are actually going to be able to get a lot more interactive with me and Pharaoh. We are going to try to get a phone line set up and potentially a voicemail line, so you guys can call the number, leave a voicemail. Your voicemail will play live on air, and we will react to what your voicemail says. So just another way to get involved with Raider Nation, another way for you guys to get your voice heard. That's what we're about over here on Raider Ray and Pharaoh NFL. But hey, man, let's get straight into these comments. So, chat. There's a 40 of you guys here. We need to have 40 likes, and we need you to drop questions.
Facts. Hey, drop some questions, and the chat's been going crazy.
Crazy.
I mean,
Crazy.
I seen some arguments. I seen
Yeah.
some threats, man. Y'all need to calm down, man. We all fans of the team, man. But yeah, the chat's going crazy right now. So we'll get to y'all in a second. Let's see. SVT got a comment. You want to start all the way from the beginning, or
No.
a lot of comments, bro?
No, we'll start at SVT and then chat. Drop all your new questions down below because we're just now getting to the chat. We had to get the preview show out of the way, and now we're going to address you guys. So we'll get to SVT first, and then you guys just redrop any questions that you guys may have, anything that you want me and Pharaoh to address and talk about, and everything is on the table. So it's up to you guys to direct the end of the show. So SVT says, regardless of the record, this game has a good story to be primetime. The NFL is mad about Gruden's legal case. Shaking my head.
You said regardless of regular game. It's kind of interesting though, because it came out that, basically it was the owner of the Redskins, or the now Washington football team, or Commanders. He was the one that leaked all that Gruden information. Yeah, I don't know. Do you believe in that? Like, do you believe that's true, that you feel like it came from, it was kind of like it was kind of an indirect threat to the NFL. Like, hey, look what I'm about to do to this coach right here.
Yeah.
Imagine now, if y'all want to force me out as an owner, I got more up my sleeve.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially for Gruden, because I feel like Gruden he was the pinata in the situation. Snyder, the NFL, the entire situation. Gruden kind of had it out for him, and it kind of deflected a ton of energy away from the Washington football team, when really that should have been the hyper focus on the NFL. The investigation was about that organization, and nothing happened with anybody in that building.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest concern about it all. And then Gruden takes a hit for it. So, you know what? Regardless of that situation, I wish all well for Gruden in the court against the lawsuit. I think it's cool that the judges push forward and that they're not going to make a settlement outside of the courtroom with Gruden in the NFL. They're kind of moving him forward in court, and hopefully, Gruden brings some heat to the table. I hope to get him on stand. I hope he comes with some evidence about some either Roger Goodell or some people in position of power around the National Football League, and maybe expose some of the stuff that's going on in the NFL that have been going on for a really long time, and that it needs to be addressed. And maybe we can hold these multi-billion-dollar corporations accountable for some of the things they do behind the scenes, because they're just generating revenue and revenue and revenue off of people like us, off of the fan bases like us. And if they're going to generate this much time and effort from the fan bases and really controlling and manipulating a lot of things, they need to be held accountable to a high standard.
Hey, he still owns the Commanders, right? He still owns the team.
Yeah, I think that they're talking about him possibly stepping down. He might have by now. I'd have to look into that, but there was talks about the family giving it up. But I know a lot of people were coming out saying, "Hey, he's not going to give it up at all." So this looks like a stern fight between them and the NFL. So
yeah, I don't think NFL wants to mess with him too, because he has too much. It sounds like he got too much stuff on him.
Yeah, the Raider Room says, "Let's go, keep it going, Pharaoh Ray." We appreciate that.
Hey, appreciate it, Raider Room, man. If y'all haven't subscribed or follow on Instagram, Raider Room has a great Raider channel, so you want to make sure you go to Instagram and follow my guy Raider Room, man. He got a lot of good stuff, a lot of good facts, man. He takes it all the way back too. At the end of the day, too, he don't just talk about what's going on with Raiders today. He'll talk about some random facts from back in the day, like Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, all the greats, man. So you want to make sure you check out Raider Room on Instagram. Make sure you give the guy a follow.
Randy says, "Do we have good team, just bad coaching?" You want to take it or me?
Do we have a good team, but just bad coaching? Whew, man. You think Sean Payton would do a better job? than Josh McDaniels? You
I
think
mean,
Jim Harbaugh would do a better
that's hard.
job?
That's hard to gauge, because we could do that with a lot of stuff. Would Andy Reid do better than Josh McDaniels? I think obviously. I mean, there's
Right,
tiers
right.
to coaching. To address the question, I don't think it's just coaching. I really don't. I think that there's a huge emphasis on execution on the field. And I think that you have a locker room of guys that are completely bought into the system. And I think that you have guys that neglected the playbook up until a certain point, and you've kind of seen the fruit of that. And then now they're trying to catch up late. And I think that's also being evident on film. But that's not to say that the coaching has been great, because it's been far from great. There's been huge situations where the coaching staff has failed the players, and there's been huge situations where the Raiders players have failed the coaching. So I think it goes both ways. I think that we're an okay team with okay coaching. If I'm being quite honest, we are what our record is.
No, facts 100%. But I think, man, the other side to it is that, man, you got to think that like some of those games that we lost, especially early on, you know what I mean, where Josh Jacobs didn't get the ball as much. We're up 20-0, and Josh Jacobs didn't get the ball in the second half. You know what I mean? Like you got to think that maybe another coach would have, you know,
But
probably
then I'm
made better.
thinking about plays like Foster Moreau dropping one in the end zone. I'm thinking of a Devontae Adams not getting his feet in bounds. I'm thinking of wide receivers running into each other. So as much as we pull to Josh McDaniels, man, we've got almost an equal opportunity to point to the players. Think of Darren Waller's drops early in the season against the Tennessee Titans, that
Yeah.
game specifically. So it goes both ways. It's not a clear answer.
It's not. I mean, hindsight's 2020. I mean, you can always look back and just like, pick apart someone's weaknesses and strengths or whatever. But man, I'm still, you know what it is that I got to see it. I got to see it with Josh McDaniels. I got to see it with this Raiders team, and I think Josh McDaniels has a lot to prove in my eyes. I think I think at times I see a great, how he is a great play caller, but there are times where I'm like, he's just overthinking it. Like he's doing things that like he's doing like these crazy trick plays, or I don't know, man. It just seems like he's just it's something off about this team, and I just can't
Mhm.
pinpoint it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of alluded to it to the last show. It's like typically I can point a finger at the roster and be like, hey, look, this is the Raiders' big issue. It's right here. It's pretty evident. This team, like I said, I don't know if I have enough fingers on my hand to kind of point to the issues. It's coaching, it's players, it's skill position group, it's play calling, it's situational football. It's all types of things thrown into one lump sum, and it's just not it's not a well-oiled machine right now. Sean Johnson says Josh Jacobs has 1402 rushing yards and through 13 games.
Man, hey,
And let's talk about this for just 1 second before we get to the other comments. And it's like Josh Jacobs is starting to show signs of abuse, right, on his body, and rightfully so. He's got a huge workload through 14 weeks of the season. If you
mhm,
go out and sign this guy to a big contract, is this kind of workload sustainable? And I think if Josh Jacobs finishes the year of how he's going to have just shy of 2,000 yards. He will go over 2,000 all-purpose yards. But if you give this guy $12.5 million a year, is this type of production sustained? And is Raider Nation going to be mad if you sign him to a contract like this and he starts dealing with injuries in the future and he's struggling to get to that 1,000 yard mark and you have him locked into a contract at 12.5 million?
that's always been the question with Josh Jacobs, and the why before the season, why a lot of you could say a lot of Raider fans, a lot of people were like they kind of agreed with Dave Z and not giving him the fifth year because he's shown us that he's gotten hurt almost every year of his career.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But man, this year, man, he's basically the second best player, or you could argue best player on offense. You know what I mean? I can't put him over Devontae.
Right.
Devontae is just,
Just
he's done
proving
it
it year in and year out.
year in, year out. But I think this year Josh Jacobs took it another level. He's having a great year. He's a great player on this team, and
But
someone that
maybe
we can rely on. And if you think about it, let's rewind it. You know what I mean? Let's rewind it a little bit. Like last year at when the Raiders made their run, who were they leaning on offense? It was Josh Jacobs. You know what I mean? Derek Carr was solid. He played big in big moments, in certain moments, but Josh Jacobs was our offense because we didn't have Darren Waller down the stretch. I mean, we had Renfro, but Renfro, as good as a player is, as solid as player is, as a player, everybody loves him in the Raider Nation. I mean, you know, he's not a number one option. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not something that you look forward to, like, man, like, oh my, Hunter Renfro is gonna he's gonna drive defensive coordinators crazy. No, it's not gonna be that type of situation. And a lot of the success for the Raiders down the stretch was because the Raiders were able to run the ball. And not just Josh Jacobs, but that online was able to block a little bit better than they were earlier in the season. So I think, man, it's tough. 12 million. Oh my God. But I'm signing. I'm bring back Josh Jacobs. You got to bring him back
Yeah,
somehow, some way.
I know.
You got to do it.
I know. It's
Franchise
just,
tag him something. Cut this player, Derek Carr.
yeah, yeah.
Take a little, take a pay cut. You want to
This
win,
this
Derek
Darren
Carr?
Waller and Hunter Renfro might be a 4-game kind of preview to see who's going to make the roster next year. Who's going to fit into this offense better? Is it going to be Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro, and maybe you have to consider moving on from one of those guys. It's just, is this you said he raised the bar to this level, but is the level that he just raised this bar to, is that the new standard? That's just my biggest question. Because
Mm,
if this new bar that he's raised it to is the standard, I have no problem paying him 12.5 million. But if I'm paying him 12.5 million to get the same production that I've got for the last 3 years out of him, I'm not as comfortable, if I'm being completely honest. So it's just, where's he at? Is this the new standard for Josh Jacobs? And if so, lock him up.
mm.
But if not, you have to exercise every option and be very cautious with signing him to a huge extension.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Is it the standard? Is it the standard, bro?
The Raider room. Why do you guys think Jacobs put the peace sign emoji on his story the other day and deleted it? I need to see this week's injury report already. It makes me worry.
Hmm. That's a good catch, man. I didn't see that. I didn't see that Raider room, but if he did, usually players like to do stuff like that just to send little messages, whether to the team or whether to the fan base, the media. They like to do that. They like to play around and do that. So who knows, man? It's a wait and see. At the end of the day, like I'm not sure. I mean, do you have any idea what that would mean?
Nah, I try not to look too much into social media stuff. I mean, unless it's evident out in the media that a player is disgruntled with the organization, then I kind of like I'll tune in and be aware. But the peace sign could have been to anything. It could have been to a private friend, a situation in his life that he knows somebody's going to view it. I mean, it could have so much context. The fact that he brought it down, he probably got hit with a little, D- grade from the Raiders organization for the social media checks. So that's probably why he took it down. But
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding, man. Pablo Visa says not true, taken out of context. Classic propaganda. Snyder is a scapegoat. NFL pulled an inside job. We know it. 100%. Algo says what happened to Gruden was completely unjustified. It was a political hit job. 100%, man. I couldn't agree more, Al. Debo says JJ's agent probably told him to sit with injury the way McDaniels is running him into the ground after a Rams game. Hey, look, Josh McDaniels is probably getting every single mile out of Josh Jacobs that he can if his true intentions, and only him and Dave Ziegler know this, if their true intentions aren't to bring him back, man, they're getting every single mile they can out of Josh Jacobs. Raider Way says Amy Trask for new NFL commissioner. That'd be kind of cool. She's a person who tries to put the players first and the people first. Riso G says Gruden is about to get paid and buy and own the Raiders. If this Josh McDaniels situation keeps going the way it goes,
I think Gruden, it was headed in that direction when Gruden was the head coach. I
yeah,
mean, I think he was kind of like making chess moves to eventually try to like buy or become an owner for the Raiders. You know, but
yeah.
we'll see.
The Raider room says thank you, Pharaoh. I'm just obsessed with our team, just like you guys are.
Oh, no doubt, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Pablo says Ray and Pharaoh. Why would we cut Carr and bring in a bridge quarterback? Wouldn't Carr be that guy?
That's what I'm saying, Paul. At the very least, I think Carr could be that guy. At the very least, and and then if everything works out, Derek Carr is the guy. You know what I mean? He puts it all together. He has a great year. They make a run, make a playoff run, go eventually to a Super Bowl. But if he's not, I think the perfect situation to compare it to is And it's not. Hey, at the end of the day, drafting a QB and it's not to say that we're going to get our Patrick Mahomes. What I'm saying is, I think that just to look at to that situation, you got a guy like Alex Smith, a proven vet, solid QB. He's not a bad QB. Solid QB. Like, sounds a little familiar, right? Derek Carr is a solid QB. And then they drafted a guy in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if we can get a Patrick Mahomes, oh my God.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr is your bridge quarterback at this point. I don't think there is a bringing in a bridge quarterback. I think DC. I think you're alluding to that, Pablo. DC is that guy. Unfortunately, I don't mean to talk about him in a derogatory way, but at this point, you keep Derek Carr. You see what he can do year 2 in this system, and yet you get a guy behind him to push Derek Carr and elevate his game. And hey, if DC elevates his game and you keep him for the next 2 seasons, then so be it. And you let him write out that 3-year contract, then Raider Nation should be happy because we're winning football games. The roster has developed chemistry, and you're developing a young guy. So Pablo, I think that you're going to see number 4 in the Raiders uniform for at least another season, implementing his decade in the silver and black. But we'll see. I think this offseason is going to be really interesting, Pablo. Debo says, how many coaching staff have lost this many games after leading by so much? The answer to that is 0. 0. McDaniels has blame, but these players have to execute as well. 100% Raider room. This is kind of something that I've been echoing for weeks now. Is everybody is so quick to jump on McDaniels, and to be honest with you, when we were sitting at 2-7, and I made that public post about Josh McDaniels, I was on that situation, and I kept quiet, I kept committed, but there was a certain point to where I was feeling the same way that the nation was feeling. And it's like, man, something's got to change, whether it's Derek Carr or whether it's Josh McDaniels. And then they kind of go on that 3-game run. They show a little sign of life. And then you're kind of left in this weird limbo situation where you're sitting at 5-8. If they go win the last 4, I mean, you got to move forward. Mark Davis has doubled down. Josh McDaniels is that guy. So, yeah, players have got to learn to execute the plays that are being called.
Ghost got a good comment. He says, if you want to go to it.
Like is it all the way at the bottom?
It's all the way at the bottom, but you can go through the comments though if you want.
Okay. SVT says, although our record is bad, the coaches have put us in places to win, but we didn't execute. I believe them getting their own guys will clean a lot of it up. 100% SVT. I think so too. I think you're going to see a lot of gritty, smart football players come to the Raiders. I really do. I think you're going to see a flooding, almost an exodus of the old regime. I mean, a lot of it's already happened, but I think a lot of those players that are fill-in, stopgap kind of players, you're going to see us move on, and you're going to see us bring in smart, intelligible, interchangeable players. And a lot of them on affordable deals. So
you think John Simpson's deserve to be cut?
I think for me personally, I think it has to do with either one, character traits, or practice principles. Because in order to throw in a guy who is benched and then to throw him in a hot situational position against the Rams and then to cut him, post game, I think a lot of it has to do with preparation, things behind the scenes more than on the field.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that great in pass protection. Run blocking, I thought he actually did okay. But you know what I mean? There's going to be a clean house, I think, of
That's
that.
An interesting cut. You know what I mean? Just like, because at the end of the day, like
that you have at the guard spot,
especially Alex Barr's going down, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, the next move is to cut a guy that has a lot of starter experience. I know Johnson ain't the greatest, but
and they go out and just replace him with a guy on Denver Broncos practice squad.
There got to be something more than that. It has to be something.
It's behind the scenes stuff. I think it's probably preparation, film study, and who knows? It could have been an ultimatum. They're like, look, we're going to bench you when your number is called later in the year due to injury. You better be prepared and you better be ready to go.
Yep.
And I think the film might have shown, hey, he's not. He wasn't as prepared as what they wanted him to.
Right.
SVT, this regime did bring in most of this defense. Yeah, some, but they brought in most of this defense. But let's be honest, it wasn't the most talented bunch. You were kind of working with what you had.
A lot of Band-Aids.
Yeah, I don't think this was the ideal situation. I don't think long term, a Sam Webb is the answer. Thankfully, he stepped up and played. He overproduced, in my opinion. But you got a lot of these players on the defensive side. The whole linebacker room needs revamped. from Luke Masterson. I mean, you can even say Denzel Perryman. His coverage ability is terrible. Divine Diablo, I don't like his coverage ability on film. I think he plays okay in the run game. Denzel Perryman does really good in the run game. But we need people who can cover and really run Patrick Graham's defense to what he's actually wanting to call.
Is Diablo out? Is he still out? Or is
Yeah,
he coming back?
He's
He's
still
still
out.
out? Okay.
Yeah. It's not about the skill level. Team can execute.
Mhm.
McDaniels might be running Josh Jacobs to the ground because he knows he won't re-sign him. Yeah, honestly.
Man. And it's funny because that Rams game, I was like, they're literally they're close to giving him 20 carries in the first half. I'm like, God, man, what are you doing?
Debo says McD is stifling creativity of players so he can run his plays. Look at Hunter, for example. Carr also cannot be creative like in the past. Where's Kuntz during all of Chandler's early issues? Another one of those players, man. I think this was a Gus Bradley type of guy. I don't know if they necessarily like.
He's gone. I think he's
Yeah,
one of those like
especially this offseason.
peace.
And it's
He's out.
unfortunate because I think he has a lot of talent, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, it's not about me saying that I don't like him as a player. It's more like that's how I think that's where it's headed.
John Simpson, Malcolm Kuntz, players like this.
They're like, look, hey, but we'll see how it works out because every regime always comes in and they want their own guys.
Yeah.
And because they'll be their excuse, their scapegoat is like, hey, we don't have our guys yet. You know what I mean? We needed the previous regime. They made plenty of mistakes. They point the finger at them. Let's hope that let's hope Dave Z keeps because Dave Z has made some mistakes. I mean, that Chandler Jones contract, I don't care. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's almost like they didn't even look at last year. They didn't look at. They just looked at like, oh, yeah, he played for the Patriots, and then they just
obviously, I don't like the complete number. Obviously, they paid richly for Chandler Jones. I don't think he's been as bad as the fan base has made it out to be, but that does not mean that it justifies the amount of money that he's making. The sack production hasn't been there. Thankfully, he's been kind of coming along as of late. Pressures, who knows? He could have been dealing with lingering injuries, and he's starting to get a little bit healthier. But honestly, the defense as a whole, a lot of guys have stepped up. So I don't know personnel changes, putting guys in more simplified schemes, letting them play fast, if that had anything to do with it. But also the emergence of an inside guy like Jerry Tillery and Andrew Billings. Hopefully those guys can come back, specifically Andrew Billings. Hopefully he can come back this week and contribute against the Patriots. I think missing him the last 2 weeks has been kind of big for the Raiders defense as well. Debo says, I agree, Pharaoh. Draft a QB and keep Carr and let it all play out.
That's what I'm saying.
SVT says Carr played better with Mariota behind him, so bring a guy in that's going to compete with DC and let the best man win. I like it. I like it a lot. I really do. I think Derek Carr's at his best when he's pushed. That's my opinion. I don't think he doesn't even the shadow of Stidham doesn't threaten Derek Carr at all.
Because Stidham is terrible.
Yeah, he's garbage. Yeah. And DC knows that. Mahomes came into a winning organization. We have to change the culture first. I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I mean, it helps that he had Andy Reid as a head coach too. You know what I mean? One of the greatest offensive minds in football. And Andy Reid's track record when it comes to developing QBs and QB success is
special.
Second to none. Second to none.
Yeah, Andy Reid had a lot to do with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Andy Reid for seeing the talent in Patrick Mahomes because he wasn't getting all that type of hype coming out of the draft. There was multiple quarterbacks taken before Patrick Mahomes, but at the end of that first round, Kansas City, was able to make that move.
Who went before Patrick Mahomes in that draft?
I want to say that was the Josh Allen draft, if I'm being honest.
Damn, Josh Allen is pretty good too.
Yeah, but I think that there was other quarterbacks as well. You'd have to look it up. You look it up.
It's funny when Josh Allen got drafted by the Bills, everybody was just laughing about it. Like, wow, this dude. And then, everybody looked right the first couple years, and then he had like a huge jump in his like third or fourth year. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Let me see. When did Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, type in Patrick Mahomes first round draft class.
Always looking at like drafts and seeing like who went first just to see like wow, like
I did just to see the order, just kind of if you could go back and redraft who you would select.
Because even Derek Carr went in the second round, and every quarterback that went ahead of him,
like, all of them.
Yeah, outperformed.
Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, all those guys.
Blake Bortles retired. Bridgewater is a career backup. Who else went in front of him?
There's a few.
Let's see, but
Obviously, they're
Lee,
not in the league anymore. Van
yeah,
City says Flacco to Lamar, Tyrod to Allen, Smith to Mahomes, Dalton to Burrow,
27.
Tannehill to Tua, Rivers to Herbert. Shall I continue? It's a good point. That's a lot of transitions from quarterbacks to just kind of say coincidence. That's a lot of just even if you could throw two teams in there, you're like, hey, there's a possibility.
Well, hey, but the Vance, to be fair though, like for those quarterback for teams to get those quarterbacks, they're obviously going to be looking for replacements.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
most likely it's not going to be like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation. That's kind of rare. You know what I mean?
Outside of the Alex Smith situation, because I think Alex Smith played like what 2 more seasons with the Chiefs. Like they were still on
Yeah,
a run a little bit, and
yeah,
he was still playing good football when they took him. But yeah, you made a good point. Outside of all that, they were looking to replace Flacco, Tyrod, Dalton, Tannehill, Rivers, all those guys.
yeah.
I'd like Mariota as a backup again, and he's available now. Plus, he doesn't know Josh McDaniel's system. We'll
Oh
see.
my God, number 2 quarterback in that 2017 draft that Mahomes got drafted. I forgot about this. Mitch Trubisky. Ooh,
Oh, good night.
damn, that's terrible.
Can you imagine the Bears? They missed out, man.
Oh, hey, but then you know what? It was Patrick Mahomes.
He was the third quarterback.
He was the second quarterback taken.
Really? At what pick?
10.
Oh, okay. I
So
thought it was towards the
he was
end.
a top 10 pick.
Okay.
He was
I
top
thought
10.
it was more towards the end.
But the guys that went in front of him, John Ross was number 9.
Oh,
McCaffrey was number 8. Mike Williams was number 7. Damn, this is a pretty good draft. Jamal Adams was number 6. Corey Davis, he didn't live up to the hype.
okay. That was bad.
Leonard Fournette went number
That
4.
mm,
Solomon Thomas, bust.
gosh.
Yeah, he went number 3. Myles Garrett went number 1 that draft. That was actually that's a pretty good draft. Number 12 was Deshaun Watson. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay.
Damn, this is a great draft. Martian Lattimore, the cornerback from the Saints, he went number 11 right after Mahomes. Hassan Reddick went after Deshaun Watson, number 13.
He's been decent.
Yeah. Oh, Jonathan Allen, is he going to be a free agent? Or was it somebody else that's going to be a D tackle from the Redskins that's going to be a free agent?
Oh yeah. Payne.
Oh, okay, never mind. Jerome Payne. Never mind. Let's see. Oh, the Raiders got Gary and Conley. That's God.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst pick out of all of them.
But he went number 24 though. He went
Yeah, I
number
don't
24.
care. He could have went. He could have went 124. That's
Damn,
still a bad pick.
TJ Watt went number 30.
Oh my! See, when you put it in context like that,
Oh, but you know who was good, but he had issues off the field. But Reuben Foster went number 31.
yeah, he did all right. Yeah, Conley, bro, Conley
He
was
was
so
he
bad.
was nice though. But Conley was just
That is such a all those names that you just named, and then you said TJ Watt went 30. Oh,
man.
that is so terrible.
If you want to know why the Raiders have been bad for so long,
Yep.
just look at their drafts. Their drafts and free agency pickups. It's just
Would Mahomes be Mahomes if he landed in Chicago instead of Trubisky? Probably not. Probably not.
and that's a great argument. That's a great argument because, and I brought this up before. I'm like, hey, a lot of player success is a little bit of luck too. You know what I mean? They have to go to the right situation. When you hear, I don't know if you guys listen to, it's a podcast with Brandon Marshall. I keep forgetting the name. What's the podcast with Brandon Marshall? I Am Athlete.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other one is the Pivot podcast.
And I remember they were arguing about who contributed to the Patriots' success. Was it Bill Belichick or Tom Brady? And a lot of the players were like, it was Tom Brady. And then Brandon Marshall was like, Bill Belichick. He was talking about the coaching and how good they are, how they were just a step ahead of everybody, and how they have you prepared. But a lot of the players were like, hey, look, like if Tom Brady played for y'all not gonna like this, he used Raiders, for example. He said if Tom Brady played for the Raiders, imagine if he mentioned the coaching staff, the revolving door coaching staff, the instability in that front office, the missed draft picks. He mentioned all the things that we kind of know, but we'll talk about it every now and then because we get excited for every season and then we get let down like this season. You know what I'm saying? Like, but hey, man, like, hey, it's player success. A lot of it comes from the situation they land into. I mean, if every quarterback had Andy Reid as a head coach, I bet you they'll put up numbers. You know what I mean? Any young QB comes into a situation like Derek Carr played with Andy Reid. Imagine, or especially early on in his career. I think a lot of what Derek Carr is going through this season is the fact that he's had so much, offensive coordinator systems, and that he's played through, and now he's played on his what is this his 7th offense?
Yeah. Wait.
It's something crazy. You know what I mean? It's something up there.
Yeah. I know DC. It's his 9th offensive coordinator.
But it's just it's a little bit of his luck, in my opinion.
Right. And we'll end it with this. SVT says, did you guys watch the Heart of the Jets QB White? I believe his name was a UDFA. Yeah. Yeah, he's an undrafted free agent. But did you guys watch the Heart of the Jets? I don't know what that is. Is that a video, a documentary? Like, I don't know. Kind of clarify that. But hey, look, man. We had a phenomenal show. We had a great show. I think that we gave a good preview for the Raiders versus the New England Patriots. And I hope that you guys are more prepared, maybe get a few looks, maybe pick up on a few tendencies that we talked about on the show, and let us know down in the comment section below. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to Pharaoh NFL and to Raider Ray. We do a live show weekly, and we alternate on each other's shows, so make sure you're subscribed to both. And on your way out, you guys, leave a comment and smash the like button. It goes so far for our channel, and we don't ask for a penny from any of you guys. So if you guys can, the free ticket, but hit that like button, leave a comment. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Pharaoh, do you got anything to close out the show?
Nah, just like you said, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to both our shows. Today we're on Raider Ray's channel, and the next week or next Saturday is going to be on my channel. So you want to make sure you subscribe to both our channels, man, because that algorithm is very real. It really helps when you like the video. It really helps when you subscribe, so we can keep coming back, man. We like what we're doing, and we appreciate the support, and that's why we're doing like prize giveaways and things like that, because it's kind of like a thank you. Like, we appreciate it, and we love the Raiders too as much as y'all do. So make sure to hit the like button on your way out, hit the subscribe, and man, man, I'm looking forward to that Patriots game. I'm looking for a W. I want the Raiders to bounce back because that was a terrible, terrible game last game. Hopefully, it was just more of a situation where they were looking ahead, which I think that's what it was. They just didn't take the Rams seriously, and that's the story of the Raiders season. But that being said, hopefully they can come out with a W against the Patriots this week.
Awesome. I love it. And as we all know, Pharaoh's going to have it queued up. Raider Nation, thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing up, showing some love. And as always,
just win, baby.
Peace.